Welcome to the Ignite You podcast.
We're two bros journey into all things spirituality and human transformation.
Let's get it. Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Welcome to the Ignite You podcast crew. My name is Cam McDougall.
I am Ryan Miller.
And today, we're drinking cold cacaos. Why?
It's true.
Because we dropped in to our current experiences of being human. And so our drinks got cold because naturally we followed the flow. We followed the emotion. We followed the experience, and we immersed ourselves in our current realities.
Yes. And we wanted to wait to shoot the episode until everything was cleared up. Everything felt good. Everything felt aligned. And that's how the episode came to be today. That's why we're talking about this topic.
Ryan told me he was cheating on me today.
So he's got a bigger beard than you, man. I don't know. It's just so
code's in the chaos.
In the chaos, yeah? Yeah.
No, but in all honesty, we want to bring you into our experiences of life. And today we want to talk about a lesson that I keep learning over and over and over and over again. And I'm almost a firm believer that transformation is impossible without going through this experience. So today is all about the codes in the chaos and how our patterns create complete insanity around us, and it's within that insanity that we ultimately get to alchemize our experiences into our transformations.
Yes. This is something we were talking about in the episode that we just had last week. We were talking about navigating it and navigating the world of plant medicine and how you can get these insights to do a certain thing like plant medicine, get a couple slaps, however that shows up, and get a lot of codes in that experience. The chaos we create and the insights that come from it. Very important.
Very important. And a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And this brings up this topic of true transformation that we always talk about in our challenges and that you and I live by, and that's that transformation is not a linear progression. Transformation is a sequence of peaks and valleys that ultimately have an upward trend, and the upward trend is transformation. But that transformation is surrounded by moments of bliss and elation when we're at a peak, and ultimately pain and suffering when we're in a valley. And it's this dance between this excitement, this bliss, this elation, and this pain and this suffering and the challenges that we ultimately find so much truth about our experience.
Yeah, true transformation in that. It's funny, we want it to be this kind of, I'll speak for me. I want it to be this beautiful journey, and I want it to be positive. I want to learn. I want to just take in the information, absorb it, move with it. I got the thing. Now let me apply it into my life. I'm a transformed man.
Give me that pill.
I want that, right? Give me that.
One pill.
Yep, just one pill.
First one's free.
There you go. And then you're addicted. So that's not the reality, obviously. We're all human beings on this planet experiencing human experiences and going through this life. And even for me, wanting that positive reality brings me into the valleys even deeper, because I want things to be optimistic. I want everyone around me to be happy. I'm that kind of person that seeks that and wants that. That's a story I have, that everyone needs to be happy around me. So somebody's not, that can bring me into a valley. Wait, I'm supposed to be happy, deeper. Wait, but I'm identified as being a happy person, deeper. Wait, but I really want it to deeper. Wait, fucking drowning in my optimism.
Yes.
So it can be interesting, that perspective too, of wanting everything to be great all the time. Then when it doesn't, the valleys go deeper. I know I deal with that one.
They really, truly do. And I am 100% with you on that. Yeah. And I think that comes from our expectations around them, right? When we have these expectations of what our transformation is supposed to look like, what our life's supposed to look like, what our journey is supposed to look like, and our realities don't meet those expectations, even the most positive expectations can lead to deep-rooted suffering and challenges.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've been in it this last little bit. I've been, I guess, getting the proverbial slaps in the face of the valleys. Because for me, one of my biggest challenges is slowing down. I do not like to slow down at all. Because I have a story in my mind that more busyness, more output, more experience leads to a better, more fulfilled life. Living in a place like Nosara in Costa Rica or Bali or any of these other hotspots, spiritual hotspots, when you move too quickly, you get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Because the energy is so intense. And for instance, if you want to get something done here very quickly, you're setting an expectation that you're going to get that thing done very quickly. And what is advertised in any environment to take a day generally takes 4 or 5.
This table, for instance.
Oh my goodness.
We got this table made here, thinking it would be done the day after we ordered it, as it was said. Didn't happen. Didn't happen that way.
No.
And we needed this table to shoot this podcast. Well, we wanted this table to shoot this podcast. We wanted a consistent
We
setup.
had expectations that we were going to shoot multiple episodes on this table. And we set ourselves up to get more stressed about you leaving and getting enough of these done and all these different things. And so that's a great example of what's going on. And for me, what's been happening lately is I've been getting injured.
Yep.
So I'm working diligently on the business with my clients, running breathwork experiences, building out new experiences for the new year, working on our app, working on the podcast, tons of stuff for the business, and also learning how to surf, trying to learn Spanish here and there, playing soccer, being in relation, having friendships, going out for dinners, going to ecstatic dance, da 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 da. The schedule gets packed. And so what happens? I lose intentionality. I lose my ability to act from a place of true desire because I get wound up in the adrenaline and norepinephrine of just go, 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 that I feel like I have to live from that. And so I've been getting injured. I caught a wave on my neck, which was actually very fucking scary. About a month ago, where a wave crashed on my neck and a shooting pain down my right arm, and I thought I'd broken my neck, and I couldn't really swim back to shore. It was a pretty intense experience, which led to a shoulder injury. I then played a soccer game on the soccer team I play with here. I got a huge, massive gash on my leg. So that led to me being laid up with a swollen leg and ankle and foot. And so all of these things are starting to happen because I'm not slowing down. And I know that I shouldn't be playing soccer. I'm learning how to surf. That's my priority. I know that I shouldn't be overextending myself on weeknights for social stuff because I have so much work to do. I know that I shouldn't launch another project because my resources are already tapped. I know all of these things, and I don't listen.
Yeah. This is very interesting. This question just came up for me. I'm really curious of your perspective on it. What is the difference of what you're saying and following your excitement?
Great question. I would say the difference in what I'm explaining and following my excitement is that I'm not actually excited right now. And that's kind of a code that I get in these experiences is when I'm editing or posting content or working on the journal or the app or all these different things and I'm not excited, then I know I've stretched myself too thin and I'm operating from an empty cup.
Yeah. You're just showing up to the obligation or the commitment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's a lot of these projects can stem from excitement. Mm-hmm. A lot of these desires to be out and socialize can stem from excitement.
Yeah.
And excitement for me can kind of get me in trouble because I'm a pretty stoked person about a lot in life, that I can really get excited about a lot of stuff. And that's pretty much my excuse. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about that. And the moment that excitement is gone and I'm actually in a challenging experience or moment, I know that I've made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I know that now I'm not operating from excitement. I'm operating from a pattern of go, 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 go.
Yeah. A good example you had for what you were doing with the soccer was you were excited to play soccer. You're like, fuck yeah, I'm so happy to be back in a team sport, so happy to be in that energy, which I can relate to. I love that. It feels so good. And this last game you played when you got injured, you woke up that morning and you were like, fuck, I know I shouldn't play. I don't feel like playing. So you're not following your excitement there.
Totally.
But originally the intention was excitement, but now you're like, I feel like I have to show up for my team.
Exactly.
I feel like I need to do that. Whatever, I'll do it anyways.
Exactly.
Because you care about the people on your team, you care about these things, but you didn't honor your truth in that.
Yeah. Which is funny you mentioned that because I was excited to wake up and work on the podcast.
Yeah.
So I was excited to wake up and do some work.
Yeah.
And I didn't follow that because I'm playing on an all Spanish speaking soccer team. I didn't actually know that it was a tournament because I can't understand everything they're saying yet. And sure enough, it ended up being an all-day tournament, which I was pretty bummed about because I had all these other things that I wanted to do. But I did not act from my power and just say, no, I didn't know this was a tournament. I can't play.
Yeah.
You know, I felt this obligation. And in that, I stretched myself too thin. And because I'm the goalie, it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, I'm not coming, guys, 2 hours before a game. At the same time, I should have. And I should have said, hey, I didn't know it was a tournament. I can only play one game, or I actually can't make something that's not strict time frames today. You know, something along those lines.
Which is setting clear boundaries.
Which we're going to get into.
Yeah, which I think is so important. I think is as going into these areas, when thinking about codes coming through and chaotic experiences or pleasurable ones, thinking about those boundaries, thinking about where do I need to draw this line? Where can I create space for myself? Where am I actually growing in this container? And this is what we're talking about with the peaks and valleys as well. And we were chatting about this beforehand, but in between the peaks and valleys, noticing in that space, noticing in between going on these really high up experiences and these lows, bringing yourself back to an equilibrium. And it takes boundaries to do that.
Yes.
Whether you're feeling real fucking good about life
Yeah.
or you're feeling really shitty in this moment, in this day. It takes boundaries to create consistent balance. And you speak to this really well. So I'd love to hear you talk about kind of the balance in between the equilibrium as you create transformation between the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, you know, before we get into it, I think a lot of people on the spiritual path, they kind of suffer from spiritual bipolar disorder, which is you're so stoked about life. Everything's amazing. Everything's beautiful. And then you don't listen. You don't set enough boundaries.
Yep.
You deplete yourself completely. Boom, you fall back into your pain and into your suffering. You get forced then to sit on your ass and get back to recharging. And then you start to feel better. You start to feel better. And once again, you're on top of the world. And you keep doing that over and over and over again. And that's kind of the chaos that we create around ourselves. And so, you know, I think that what Ryan's saying is so important because we can follow more of a smooth trajectory, right? More of a it's kind of like in breath work when we titrate the energy. It's like we're not bringing someone to 100% trauma release. We're bringing someone to an 80% trauma release so that we can bring them back down and maintain an appropriate level of stimulus. This is very similar. And if you set the right boundaries around how much energy you're going to give, how excited you're going to get, how many ecstatic dances you're going to, how many cacaos you're going to slam, how many things you're going to do. We'll erase that one because we have no boundaries on that.
No, keep going.
But you make these boundaries around it, you'll have a much more gradual dip as opposed to falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
Because you won't get that final slap in the face. It's like you won't get depleted. And so in those boundaries, we're able to say, okay, well, I go to ecstatic dance once a week if I feel like my energy is at an 8 or above.
Yeah.
And then you get to a place where if it's a 7 or a 6, maybe you go to yin yoga and that's your experience for the night. And then if it's below that, you have another tier, another something. And so you outfit yourself with these tools that can act as boundaries to prevent you from going too deep. And you know that if you get invited to a spur of the moment ecstatic on Friday and you've already been on Wednesday, maybe you say no. Maybe you just stay inward. Even though you feel like you have the energy to do it, you say no. You stay inward. You do a practice. You do some journaling. Maybe you have an intimate gathering with your friends, or you do something that's a little bit more chilled out. And I think for me with the sports, for instance, I've decided that I'm going to stop the soccer team. And for me, I've decided that I won't surf more than 4 days a week. Because I was surfing 6 days a week and I was getting a lot better and sometimes twice a day and I was progressing, but my body was getting annihilated.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, it's surf 4 days a week, couple yoga sessions, no matter how good the swell is, just say no and let your body recuperate. Right. And I think that that's where we can really start to grab our life by the horns. We can start to take control of our state a lot better and avoid too much of the chaos. But I really don't think you can avoid all the chaos. It's impossible.
No, we're going to get it. And we ride that wave. To what you're saying, and to go back to what I was saying, in that balance, it seems like the place you're talking about creating that schedule, that space, that ideal way that you're living. You talked about ecstatic dance once or twice a week. I say that because I do it twice a week. Yeah. Yes, but I've made that decision.
But that's your decision. That's my boundary. Decision. Yeah,
I didn't create that when I was really excited and say, "Oh, I'm gonna do that. I love this. I'm gonna do it." I didn't create it when I was really down. Fuck, I need that to feel good. I'm gonna do that. I created that when I was in that place in between. You know what? That was amazing, a beautiful dance, really heart opening. I loved it, and I can be soft in that space. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And I can check in with it along the way. Just because I made the commitment doesn't mean I need to keep the commitment. I'm deciding that. They're ever changing. But where is the decision being made from?
Very important.
That's the piece that I wanted to bring in. And we had a beautiful chat about this beforehand. But making sure we're making the decision of setting a boundary outside of an extremified emotion.
Yes.
At a clear, connected place. That's where we set the boundary from. I think that is one of the most important pieces that I'm extrapolating from what you're saying, because it's really easy to set a boundary when we're in a high emotion. Crying, fuck, I hate that person, never going to see him again. That's a boundary. Next day you feel pretty good. You're like, well, I mean, I text them, see what they're doing tonight. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Set it from the place when we get full clarity.
Totally.
Find that balance in yourself. And I'd love for you to speak to this because we just did that before this. Like, how do you come to find that space where you're like, okay, I notice the emotion, but I'm going to kind of tune in and set a boundary here? How do you navigate that?
I take space from the stimulus.
Yes.
For me, we have to take space from even the things that bring us the most joy. And we have to take space from the things that bring us the most pain, so that we can recalibrate within ourselves and start to really make decisions in a responding energy, like you said, as opposed to reactive.
Yeah.
Because if we are very excited, we're going to react to that excitement. Mm-hmm. That is when I overstretch myself. Things start going well, excitement starts building. I start feeling this limitless, I can do anything energy. And then before I know it, I'm like, oh shit, I committed to what?
You pack the schedule.
I did how many things?
Yeah.
Right? And on the flip side, if I'm in a valley, I can be in this, no, everything's fucked. I don't like this energy. The world's going to shit. Everything's like dark and challenging. And then I'll be like, I'm not doing this, never doing that, not talking to this person, fuck that person. And we get into that whole energy and we start making decisions from that. And then upon reflecting, I'd be like, wow, that person actually is a beautiful person. I was just triggered and in a really bad space. I probably shouldn't have ended that friendship or whatever, right? So super important to realize that when we find the balance and we actually are in a place of homeostasis where we're feeling full, we're feeling clear, we're not deep in a trigger, we're feeling very aligned and attuned, but we're also not in an extravagant expression, we start to take time to unpack, to journal, to evaluate, to understand. That's a great time to call a friend.
There you go.
And drop into a conversation, because you'll have an educated conversation, not a reactionary conversation. And so I think that's a very important thing for people to do, is to create the space away from the stimulus, give yourself enough time to come back to a place of homeostasis. Once you're in that place of homeostasis, take some time to unpack, to uncover, to decipher, and really evaluate your current circumstances, whether it's a business decision, a relationship decision,
Yes.
A sports decision, an activities decision, whatever that is.
Yes. Love that. Hell yeah. And we definitely understand there's moments that happen that you need to make an instant decision. You need to choose right then in that moment. You need to have something decided. So it's not that you'll always have space, but something I'm hearing from Cam and something that we're inviting in is to make sure you're creating space for responsiveness in your life. Creating space for yourself to be able to show up in that capacity, to not create a reality that's reactive. There's so many ways to do that, but the realities that are reactive show up everywhere else. The phones that have notifications dinging all the time, this is an easy one. Turn off those notifications, right?
All notifications should be turned off on your phone, your watch, everything.
We're big proponents of this.
Turn them off.
Turn them off!
All of them.
No.
Please. Your nervous system will be healed in a week.
So yes to that. Obviously, we're passionate about that.
And you should be too.
You should be. I hope you're excited, as excited as we are. But don't respond from that. If you're too excited right now, don't go and do it right now, is what we're saying. Don't go to your notification settings and be like, Cameron Ryan said to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Yes, if that doesn't serve you. Take a moment. Take this as an invitation. Maybe you got new knowledge, like, all right, cool, I don't want to be as reactive. This is a way to start doing that so it doesn't reflect everywhere else in my life. But don't be reactive to stop being reactive. So funnily enough, an invitation actually comes in the invitation to check in with yourself and see where that decision is coming from. Take a step back after this podcast, choose to respond, go in your settings and turn the notifications off. I'm just saying you should do it. But
decision's already made.
But in reality, these little things show up everywhere else. Everywhere else. We have notifications. That shows up in one place. We go and we have a conversation with somebody. We get triggered by a thing going on over there.
Yeah.
We start becoming the emotion because somebody said something and we remember that thing that they said, but I wasn't fully attentive to what they were saying. And we're just living in a world of reactivity around us. If somebody's feeling an emotion over there, I can feel it. If they're mad in traffic, yeah, okay, you flicked me off. All right, I'm going to hold on to that.
Yeah.
The invitation is to create space because it won't always happen right in the moment. It's not to say we're all able to do that. I'm not able to do that. It's not to say we're going to be able to do it every moment, but make sure you have space for yourself. This is why we love routines so much. This is why we love having practices in the morning and in the evening. Because if nothing else, we can start our day and end our day with being responsive, being in ourselves, connecting to ourselves.
And that extends.
Yeah.
Your morning
and
evening
goes
practices, it just starts to extend, which is so beautiful. And I love this so much because I had a friend growing up and we would shop together. And I love this analogy just came to me, and I think it's a very good analogy. When I was younger, I made a lot of money as a young person, right? I was a very entrepreneurial person. None of it was legal.
Yeah.
But I was very cash rich at a young age. And so I would buy everything. I would go into a mall. I would just want these pants. I'd want the sunglasses. I'd want the chain. I would just buy. And I had a friend that I would go shopping with, and he never bought one thing when we went shopping. Looked at a ton of stuff, like these pants, like this jacket, like this shirt. And I remember asking him one day, I'm like, why do you come shopping with me? You don't buy anything. He said to me, I never buy when I'm in the mall or in the environment where I'm being programmed to buy.
Damn.
And so he said he would go home, and if in 3 days or so he still wanted that article of clothing, he'd go back and buy it. But he had a rule that he never bought it when he was in the hype, especially around me when I was just spending a ton of cash, buying a bunch of stuff. He never let that into his system.
Yeah.
And I think there's such a powerful code in that, where this is exactly what we're talking about on a microcosm, because, retail therapy is a great example. When we're cash rich, we're super excited. We want everything. We spend all of our cash. And then if we dip down into triggers and we get to a place where we're depressed or anxious, we also buy and spend a lot of money out of reaction to get the dopamine hit and all of those things. So we're challenging our financial abundance no matter where we're at on the scale. But if we're at a place where we're not letting the trigger dictate us buying, or the wad of cash in the pocket dictate us buying, and we actually take 3 or 4 days to reflect on whether we want the pants, want the shirt, want the chain, then you're going to use intentionality to buy it.
Yes.
You're going to save a ton of money. Mm-hmm. You're not going to act from a place that you'll regret. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, you stay in your power.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful way to look at it.
It's good. Man was wise.
Super wise. And this is when we were, I think, like 16, 17.
Nice.
He's an accountant now. Like he's got his own things, but he's very, when it comes to financial abundance, he's dialed.
That's so cool, man. And it's true. Like, in reality, we're all being trained, you could say programmed, to be reactive every day, all the time. There's not a lot of trainings on being responsive to the world around you. We're just being trained in that way of being. Because it's quick, because it's easy, because of marketing. There's so many reasons why it makes sense to train society to be reactive. Now it's time for us to train our capacity to be responsive. And I love what you're saying. It's not often that you hear that. Even when I hear that, I'm like, that never happened. I've never met somebody that's like that at any age that would take that kind of space. Like, that is a surprise. And it shouldn't be. It should be that, like, oh, okay, cool. Like, some people are like that, some people are like that. Like, a lot of people can be that way. I love that. But it's a surprise to hear. It just shows how much of our reality is dictated by reactivity and the norm. Yeah, man, it's...
Well, and it's interesting because, we're kept in a state of fear. Yeah. And we're kept in a state of activation as a society. We really are. And you just have to watch a couple ads to realize it. There's a lot of mass programming going on that keeps us in these states. And so it's really important to remove ourselves from them. And so that's a whole other topic. So I don't want to go too deep into that. I think we will eventually when we start talking about, the mind being programmed and how to really, rewire yourself and the boundaries set around that. But I think the really important thing to remember here is if you're in a state and you're finding yourself being very excited, having lots of challenges, getting slaps in the face, not getting slaps in the face, and just like all over the place on this journey, power just went off and on, which is great.
There we go. Hopefully
It maintains. Know that that's a part of your journey. Know that this chaos is actually an invitation. And whether you're elated and excited or you are suffering and in pain, you're being invited into an opportunity to balance yourself out. And, you know, I always talk about transformation in a way where it starts super jagged with these peaks and valleys. Mm-hmm. And the better you get at it, you start to transform more like a snake. Mm-hmm. On an upward trajectory. Your peaks become longer but less intense, and your valleys become longer and less intense because bless you. Because we learn to sit in the shit. We learn to be with the experience. We learn all these different ways, and we actually start to utilize the chaos around us in a very powerful way to understand our experience.
Yeah, we're not reacting to it in the same way.
Exactly. Those peaks are reactions, right?
Exactly. It's like,
exactly.
It's just moving quickly with that. Yeah, creating balance in your life, bringing more structure into that to create freedom. Mm-hmm. It's true, man. And you brought up fear, and you weren't going to go down that path. But I do want to just bring up a point on that, which is something you probably heard before, but we either act from love or we act from fear. And back to the decision-making piece of it. When we're thinking about chaos, it's easy to correlate the experience of being reactive to what actually creates the chaos. And I would say most of the time that's coming from fear. That's coming from a story, that's coming from a program, that's coming from something that's not serving us. So the more we can create our capacity to be into love, the more we can start to build that capacity, the more we kind of get into that snake and we start moving through it in that way. And I think that that's really beautiful. I feel that that is something that I was missing for a long time because, like I mentioned, I want everyone around me to be happy. I wanted to prove that I could do that. And that's fear-driven. It's like, oh, it's a good intention, yeah, but I'm afraid to be disliked. So if I'm afraid to be disliked, but I'm doing things that look nice externally, sure, it looks like I'm doing great.
Yeah.
But in reality, there's a split happening in what's happening inside of me versus what's happening on the external. It's like, oh, you're so happy, all these friends doing these things, all amazing. Yeah, it's coming from fear of being disliked. It's coming from chaos inside of me and trying to make it beautifully packaged on the outside and give it to somebody. But if I'm not showing my true self, which I believe is a part of love, it's not just all good. No. If I'm not showing my true self, there's chaos because there's conflict to what's happening. Whether or not externally it looks like chaotic, for me there's conflict. Conflict inside of me, which creates reactivity because I'm serving that piece of me that's coming from fear. I don't know if that made sense how I just said it.
No, it did, for sure.
Cool.
And to just elaborate a little deeper, like what do you think would be a code in that? For example, this example of you wanting everyone to be happy and you not feeling happy or whatever that is, like what would be a code in that?
It's the opposite of what I just said. So me not sharing what's going on inside. I still notice I want everybody to be happy around me. That still shows up. I love for people to be happy. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But if somebody's mad, I've now accepted that's not up to me.
Yeah.
It's not even up to me to make people happy.
Yeah.
I just love when people are happy.
Yeah.
But I can accept if things are different. The important piece, though, that actually shifts there is that I can share what's going on inside. I don't have to be the happy person all the time, which is more important.
Yes, exactly.
I can be like, man, I just don't feel so, which is, again, back to honoring what you were saying, honoring the reality you're in, whether or not you said you were going to do something. I love showing up for commitments. I love being a person with high energy. I love being happy, bringing people up around me.
Igniting people.
That's fucking love it. And if I don't feel that way, the codes for me are to not bring that into conflict and be like, oh, I'm supposed to show up this way because this is what people expect of me. Fuck that. I don't go into those containers anymore.
No.
I don't put myself in a container where people expect Ryan to be a certain emotion.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
I've now, as you see, created a reality where I'm like, I'm going to share what's real.
Yeah.
If you can't handle that, if you think I'm supposed to be a certain way and always hold you because I am a coach, I'm a healer, whatever, you think I'm always going to be the one holding and you expect that of me. And when I can't, you can't reciprocate that. You're not my people.
Yeah.
So me just being honest about what's going on inside and being like, hey, I'm not really feeling it today.
Yeah.
And if I can be honored by the people around me in that,
Yeah.
with my people.
Beautiful.
So me going into that and owning
The
it,
truth.
like, what's really going on, what's happening. I don't need to be happy all the time. I don't need to be energized. That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't need to make people happy all the time. I don't need to make them energized. That's okay.
Yes.
Owning that, feeling that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Respect. Very cool aspect that you brought up. When I was describing a lot of this, I was talking about external chaos.
Yes.
Internal chaos is the exact same thing. And I think that's a very important thing to talk about. And I love this divide that you brought up because it reminds me of my finance days where, you know, I would act like I was on the top of the world and everything's great and I have so much money and I'm successful and I'm doing all these things and I've changed my life. And on the inside, I was just going deeper and deeper into depression, emptiness, fear, all of these things. And, you know, my code in that ended up being that conventional success brings me no joy.
Yeah. And
to act from a place of, you know, reciprocal success, which is, you know, supporting people and seeing people, and, you know, that's a whole other thing. But it really, you know, triggered something in a good way in me when you explain that divide that can happen in that internal chaos, because what can happen is eventually we rip. It's like that divide gets too much and then we just rip. And it gets really ugly and really challenging. And so bringing our awareness to these internal dialogues, this internal chaos, is also as important as seeing the chaos around you externally, if not more.
Probably more. Yeah, it's that conflict of what's going on outside and inside. And I feel that's the biggest thing that will create a crisis. Quarter life, midlife, whatever.
For sure.
The
That
crisis
divide widening,
comes from you having an external identity and something you've been doing for a long period of time. Where you're like, fuck, who was I doing this for? Why was I doing it? Inside you knew something you should have been doing differently.
Yes.
It was drawing you and putting you somewhere else. And the conflict happens. So the chaos arises and it's just a big slap in the face. Talk about these slaps.
Yeah.
Having a crisis.
That's the
in
biggest.
life,
That's the bus.
the biggest misalignment.
Getting hit by a truck.
Yeah,
Not
just a slam.
Yeah.
And that's where people make big decisions like, fuck, I need to leave the job, I need to do this. And also, that's acting from an extremified emotion. Back to what we're saying. Let's try not to wait for the crisis to make the decision. Let's notice the misalignment of the external and the internal so we can choose to respond and start creating that new reality. Because otherwise that slap in the face or the sickness, I know for me, I was getting panic attacks, I was getting sick, all these things were happening when I was in the corporate world, and it just, my body started shutting down. And so it was very obvious, like, gotta go. But I waited far too long, right? I didn't wait and be like, oh, okay, let me just check in. No, I waited till it was just sick and my body reacted to that stress.
Yes.
But these tools, this way to navigate and to recognize when it's happening, it's purely just seeing the misalignment, the conflict with the external and the internal.
Yes, definitely. And so for us, our mission, as we say in every episode, is to ignite the human soul.
Yes.
With this episode, our intention is to help you understand that whether it's internal or external or a combination of both, chaos around you is the foundation or are the ingredients for you to alchemize your experience into transformation. And in order to alchemize your experience into transformation, one must respond to the external or the internal chaos taking place. And so for you, Ryan, I'd love to ask you a question, because you're so diligent in your journaling practice. Is there some form of intention setting and reflection piece that you might be able to give somebody so that they could start to bring this awareness to their days to see like what that would look like. And it could just be as basic as your intention or as your, you know, your reflection.
Yeah. On that, Ignite Your Day Journal will be coming out very soon.
It will.
We have a test group going through it right now.
Yeah.
Very fucking excited for that. We have a lot of tools
It's
in
amazing.
that container in that journal. So look out for that.
I wasn't trying to plug it,
but it makes a lot of sense.
It does make sense now.
We do.
Surprise, we're doing a journal.
Yes. So one tool that I'd like to mention and go back on to what you were saying earlier was checking in with your body and seeing, you gave like out of 10. You were like, oh, if I'm above a 7, I'll do this. If I'm below a 7, I'll do this. It's something we do in the journal. It's something I do every day. I check in with it. It creates a percentage out of 100. 5 different areas, 5 different bodies. The bodies we've talked about before. In that can determine where I'm at in that day and the decisions I will then make. Am I going to train today? Am I going to do that activity today? Am I going to show up for all these different spaces? Am I going to be more creative today? Am I going to be softer on myself? Whatever it is, checking in with the 5 bodies to go through that.
Which just really quickly are physical, energetic, emotional, mental, spiritual. Just in case you haven't listened to another episode or been in our world before.
Yes, all 5 of those. There's a question for each one to kind of check in with it. But practically you could just check in and see. That's a tool I love to use. I've used that every day since we've had that in the programming, and it's been amazing. To check in with myself and kind of bring in alchemizing experiences, I love the intention, classic. What's my intention today?
And do you set your intention from your practice of the 5-body check-in?
No.
Okay.
No, I set my intention first.
Okay.
And then, because the intention is usually not a tangible action.
Okay.
So the 5 bodies then goes more into like, okay, what tangible actions am I to do today?
Okay.
So the intention is more, how do I want to show up? How do I want to feel? Who do I want to be?
Who do you want to be? Okay.
That kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And then when I go in the 5 bodies, it kind of then determines what am I to do today. So you know, like from the like to be, to do, it starts in that space, and I go, okay. I like starting in that space because I come out of meditation, come out of breath work, I'm journaling.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, I want to show up like this today. I love to embody these practices. I'm grateful for X, Y, Z. This is where I'm at in my body. This is my experience in this form. Okay, this is what needs to get done. This is what I can do. This is what I'll train or not. This is how I'll show up today. So it goes from the kind of energetic to where I'm at to the very practical, tangible. So
Cool.
it kind of varies.
Well, I love that. And so just to kind of clarify, for me, what that means is if I woke up and set the intention, I want to be Superman today.
Yep.
And I went through the 5 bodies, and I actually realized that my energy was overdrawn. I was kind of tired. I might not be the conventional Superman of flying around in tights.
Yep.
You know, I might be Superman at the spa for the day.
There you go.
I might be doing a Superman recovery day
go.
where I go have an ice bath and I get an IV drip and, you know, I get compression, you know, done, whatever that is.
Yes.
So it would actually then be a different application than what one might think when they hear Superman as the intention.
And to be fair, now that you said it like that, I used to do the 5-body check-in first.
Okay.
Because I wanted to get clear on where I was at. I couldn't just do it. I couldn't just tune in and be like, oh, where am I at? Intention. But now, when I tune into my intention, I've already meditated. I've done breath. I've stretched. I've done my practices. So I already...
Which subconsciously, you're already pretty much tapping into your
very
state.
Clear. Yeah, I already know where I'm at. By the time I write my intention, I already know. I just do the 5-body because it feels good to kind of have that out there. But yes, when I started it, I did do the bodies first to be like, okay, where am I at? I need to get this I need to understand where I'm at. Ask the questions.
Cool.
But now it's kind of intuitive because I'm in the practice. The practice already creates the clarity.
Yes.
So yeah.
Beautiful.
Good point.
So if you're starting, it might make more sense to start with like a 5-body check-in.
Yep.
And then make your intention based on that. However, if you already have a practice that you feel supports you in making a clear intention for the day, you could then do some form of 5-body check-in that would then dictate which specific actions you are taking that day, not necessarily a specific intention.
Yes.
Cool.
Exactly.
I love that.
Boom.
Beautiful. And so coming to the reflection piece, one thing that I would love to add to this, and it's such a powerful question that I ask myself in my evening journaling practice, and that is, where did I fall from grace?
Love it.
Where did I fall from grace?
Can you elaborate on grace? I've gotten these questions before from people using
For
this.
sure. So for me, when it comes to grace, I think about my intention. I think about my to-do list. I think about who I wanted to be for that day.
Yes.
So when I think about falling from grace, if I decide I want to be Superman that day, how did I not show up as Superman? How did I miss the mark? And what I do is I actually list them out. So I'll say, I knew I was tired, but I still went to the gym, which led for a less productive work day because I was more tired. Or I knew my nervous system was overdrawn and I still had 3 matchas and it fragmented me. And I'll reflect on those. And I find that to be such a powerful practice because it forces you to take a look at the misaligned decisions that you made, most likely from reaction. And so it brings my awareness to the pieces of my day that I reacted to.
Yes.
Which ultimately helps me set boundaries, and which ultimately shines a light on my internal stories that are pushing me away from the codes and keeping me in the chaos.
Beautiful. I love that tool. And we usually marry that tool with celebration from the day and then an integration to going into the next day.
What do I want to do tomorrow?
Because of falling from grace, tomorrow I get to X.
Yes.
So
what am I working on? How
Yeah.
am I now integrating these reflections and
Exactly.
showing up differently?
Because getting that, some people, it could be a spiral of like, oh, I didn't do, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
oh.
for sure.
But we do usually start with a celebration, go into
Yeah.
that, and then use that as an
For sure.
integration. But yeah, that's powerful tool.
Because, so many people journal in the morning with how they want to be, but you then have to check in with how you acted opposite and how you wanted to be, because that's going to show you the patterns.
Exactly.
You're going to see them right there. For me, I'll be like, I had those matchas when I was stressed, when I wanted that torque, when I didn't listen to my body. It'll show me the pattern of me wanting to do more as opposed to resting, chilling, embracing myself being tired, allowing for myself to be tired. And that's beautiful, because the next day I can say, you know what? When I get tired tomorrow, I'm gonna have a nap.
So I'll just celebrate you, because this is a real thing that happened yesterday to today. Yesterday, you had the matcha experience. This isn't like theoretical.
No, this
is just what happened.
This is real.
Yesterday you were in the matcha experience and didn't have a lot of food, had a lot of caffeine, which isn't normal for you, but just was moving it. It's, it's the weekend. It's the weekend. Let's get turned on matcha. So that's how we get turned.
Yeah, that's how we
party with matcha. And today, instead of going to ecstatic dance, you took a 1-hour nap.
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge and celebrate that's the reality. That's what Cam's showing up for. And I see you in that. I see you show up for these practices. It's not theoretical.
No.
These things are not of theory. That's where Ignite comes from. It's not of theory. It's us doing the work and showing up for it ourselves.
Yes.
So I see you showing up for the codes, actually reflecting on it, and then being in that process.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man.
And Ryan's invited me into this nap world because I was very resistant to naps for a very long time. And they got me through. Without them, I wouldn't have graduated post-secondary. Like, they got me through that. But I stopped using them as a tool, and you've really invited me into that. And they're an amazing tool to recharge. I think we should do an episode on naps.
Dude, I want to.
Because for igniting the soul, we gotta recover. We gotta rest.
Of course, they're power naps.
Yes.
Because they're
powerful. Jacked naps.
We just work out while we sleep. No, these experiences of taking that space, you have to be soft on yourself, but these don't have to be long naps. Like an hour is one experience, 10 minutes is an experience, but creating space for that. I'd love to have an episode on naps, man. Yes.
It'd be beautiful.
Nerd out on naps.
It'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like that is complete.
Beautiful. Yeah. Love it.
Amazing. So enjoy this journey. Enjoy the chaos as much as you can. Alchemize the chaos as much as you can. We will be letting you know when this journal's available.
Yes.
The app will have all of these tools in them in it to help you navigate taking space and getting yourself into the right states to act from a place of responding, not reaction.
Yes.
And if you haven't signed up yet, come hang out with us in Costa Rica.
It's going to be sick. We're going to have all the tools. But think about applying this in your day-to-day life. Instead of this just ending and going to the next thing, being reactive, doing whatever, take a moment after this episode. If you sat for this long, sat through this experience, take a couple minutes. Just tune in and see how and if you can apply these practices to your life.
Reflect.
What is applicable?
Yes.
Give yourself space. Start the practice of responding. Start the practice of finding the codes. Give yourself a little bit of space, just little, as much as you want, to find the codes and to start creating this new capacity. Boom.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Use the tools, crew.
Use the tools and stay lit.
Stay lit.